The mop moved across the floor in slow, steady strokes, back and forth, back and forth. The sound of wet fabric against metal was the only noise in the empty training hall. Ho liked it this way, the silence, the darkness, the peace of working when everyone else was asleep. The clock on the wall showed 300 hours, 3 in the morning. The Galactic Unity Academy was quiet at this time. No cadets running through the halls, no instructors shouting orders, no aliens looking at him like he was nothing. Just Ho and his mop, and the endless floors that needed cleaning. He was 42 years old. His hair was starting to turn gray at the sides. His face had lines that came from years of not smiling. He wore the gray uniform of the maintenance staff, and he always kept his collar high, covering his neck. The academy was a big place. It trained young beings from 12 different species to become soldiers, diplomats, and leaders. Humans had only joined the Galactic Concord 15 years ago. They were still the newcomers, still the ones that other species looked down upon. Ho did not mind being looked down upon. In fact, he preferred it. When people think you are nothing, they leave you alone, and being left alone was all he wanted. He finished the training hall and moved his bucket to the next corridor. His footsteps made no sound. He had learned long ago how to walk without being heard. The academy had many wonders, training rooms with artificial gravity, libraries with knowledge from 1,000 worlds, gardens that held plants from across the galaxy. Ho cleaned them all and he noticed none of them. He kept his eyes on the floor, always on the floor. A door opened somewhere ahead. Ho did not look up. He heard soft footsteps, human footsteps. He knew who it was before she spoke. Working late again, Mr. Was 19 years old. She was one of the few human cadets at the academy. She had a round face and tired eyes, and she always carried too many books. Ho gave a small nod, but did not stop mopping. Walked closer, she held out a small cup. I brought you tea, the good kind from Earth. I know the stuff in the maintenance room tastes like engine oil. Ho stopped. He looked at the cup for a moment, then took it with a small bow of his head. Thank you. You know, you're the only person here who doesn't ask me why I study so late, said. She sat down on a bench against the wall. Everyone else thinks I'm crazy. Ho said nothing. He sipped the tea. It was good. It reminded him of things he did not want to remember. The other cadets say humans don't belong here, continued. She was not really talking to him. She was talking to the empty hallway and he just happened to be there. They say we're too weak, too new, too soft. Ho kept mopping. Sometimes I think they're right, she said quietly. He stopped. For a moment he almost said something, almost told her that she was wrong, that humans were not weak, that he had seen humans do things that would make the bravest alien run away screaming. But he did not say any of this. He just nodded at her and moved on to the next section of floor. Watched him go. She looked disappointed but not surprised. The next day was worse for her. Ho saw it happen from across the dining hall. He was emptying trash bins, invisible as always. A group of cadets had surrounded. Were big, gray skin, black eyes, muscles like stone. They were proud of their strength and they loved to remind humans how weak they were. The leader was named. He was young, but he was already huge. He stood over like a mountain over a flower. Look at this, said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The little human thinks she can be a soldier. He laughed, and his friends laughed with him. My baby sister could break you in half. Stood straight, her voice was steady. I have the same right to be here as you. Rights? Leaned closer. Your species was living in mud huts while mine was building starships. You don't have rights. You have charity. We let you join the Conquered because we felt sorry for you. Other aliens in the hall watched. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked amused. None of them helped. Ho kept emptying trash. His hands were steady. His face showed nothing. Looked across the hall. For a moment her eyes met his. He saw the question in them. The hope. the silent plea for anyone to stand with her. Ho looked away. He picked up his trash bag and walked out of the hall. That night in the small room where maintenance workers slept, Ho stood in front of a mirror. The room was dark. His roommates were asleep. He could hear their breathing. Slowly he unbuttoned his collar. He pulled it down, exposing the left side of his neck. The tattoo was there, faded now after 30 years but still clear. A black sun with 7 stars around it. Below the sun, words in an old Earth military language. Words that most people in the galaxy could not read. Ho looked at the tattoo for a long time. His face did not change, but something moved behind his eyes, something old, something heavy. He touched the faded ink with his fingers. The skin there was rough beneath the tattoo. In the mirror, he did not see a janitor. For just a moment, he saw someone else. Someone younger. Someone wearing black armor instead of gray cloth. Someone who had done terrible things for good reasons. Then the moment passed. He pulled his collar back up, hiding the tattoo once more. He turned off the light and lay down on his bed. Sleep came slowly, as it always did, and when it came, it brought dreams he wished he could forget. In those dreams, he was not mopping floors. He was not invisible. He was not quiet. In those dreams, the black sun burned, and the 7 stars fell one by one, and the screaming never stopped. Ho woke before dawn. He dressed in his gray uniform. He raised his collar high against his neck. Then he picked up his mop and went back to work. Back and forth, just a janitor, just a human, just nobody at all. But sometimes, late at night, when he thought nobody was watching, his hands moved in ways that mopping did not teach. Quick movements, precise movements, the kind of movements that could break a man's neck in half a second. Then he would catch himself, and his hands would go still, and he would go back to mopping. Back and forth, back and forth. The invisible man, with the hidden sun on his neck. The academy was different that morning. Banners hung from the high ceilings. Flowers from 12 worlds decorated the great hall. Today was the remembrance ceremony. 30 years ago, the galaxy had faced death. Not from war between species, not from politics or greed. The death had come from outside, from the dark space between galaxies. They were called the Harrow. Nobody knew where the Harrow came from. Nobody knew what they wanted. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They only killed. They moved through the galaxy like a disease, destroying everything in their path. The war lasted 5 years. Billions died. Entire worlds burned. Species that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side just to survive. And then somehow the galaxy won. The Harrow were destroyed. At least everyone believed they were destroyed. The remembrance ceremony honored those who died in that war. Every species had lost soldiers. Every species had its heroes. Ho stood in the shadows at the back of the great hall. He had a broom in his hands, but he was not sweeping. He was listening. Director stood at the front. He was old now, his feathers gray and thin. There were bird-like beings, proud and ancient, had been young during the Void War. He had fought in the final battles. "We gather to remember," said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "We remember the fleet that held the line at Sector 9. We remember the ground forces who retook the mining colonies. We remember the pilots who flew into the heart of the enemy." Ho's jaw tightened. He knew what was coming. "And we remember our allies," continued. "The humans, small in number, new to the stars but brave beyond measure." The hall was quiet. Some of the alien cadets shifted uncomfortably. They did not like being reminded that humans had helped win the war. "Humans did things in that war that should not have been possible," said. "They went to places where no one else would go. They made sacrifices that still give me nightmares." The old paused. "We do not speak of these things often. Perhaps we should." Ho turned away. He did not want to hear any more. He walked out of the great hall, his broom held tight in his hands. The training yard was empty. All the cadets were at the ceremony. Ho found a quiet corner and sat down. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe slowly. Names had not said the names, but Ho knew them. He could never forget them. Jun, who loved to sing old songs from Earth. One who had a daughter he never got to meet. Who was the best shot he had ever seen. All of them gone, all of them dust and memory. A loud noise broke his thoughts, an alarm, then screaming. Ho was on his feet before he knew he was moving. He ran toward the sound. The training arena was chaos. Cadets were running in all directions. Instructors were shouting. In the middle of it all, a combat drone spun wildly, its weapons firing at random. These drones were used for training. They were supposed to be safe. They were supposed to have limits, but something had gone wrong. The drone's eyes glowed red and it moved with deadly speed. Ho saw. She was on the ground, her leg twisted under her. The drone was coming toward her. Its blade arms were spinning. The instructors were too far away. The other cadets were running. Nobody could reach her in time. Nobody except Ho. He did not think. 30 years of trying to forget and his body still remembered. He moved. Later, people would talk about what they saw. They would say the janitor moved like water. They would say he was there, and then he was somewhere else, and they could not see how he crossed the distance. Ho hit the drone from the side. His hand found the joint where the arm met the body. He twisted. Metal screamed. The arm came off. The drone spun toward him. He was already moving. Second joint. Third joint. Each strike was perfect. Each strike was exactly where it needed to be. The drone collapsed. It happened in less than 4 seconds. Ho caught before she could fall backward. He set her down gently, carefully. His breathing was not even slightly fast. "Are you hurt?" he asked. It was the most he had said to anyone in months. Stared at him, her eyes were wide. "Your neck," she whispered. Ho's hand went to his collar. It had torn in the fight. The tattoo was visible, the black sun, the 7 stars. He looked up. Across the arena, director stood frozen. The old's eyes were fixed on Ho's neck, on the symbol there. Recognition, shock, and something else, something like fear. Ho stood. He turned away from all the staring eyes. He walked toward the exit. "Wait," Commander stepped into his path. He was tall, with 4 arms and scales that shone like copper. He was head of security. He was not used to mysteries. "I need to ask you some questions." "Let him go." His voice was quiet but firm. Turned. "Director, this man just destroyed a combat drone with his bare hands. He is clearly not a simple janitor. We need to know." "I know what we need," said, "and I am telling you to let him go." "But that man has earned his peace, Commander." Old eyes were still fixed on the door where Ho had disappeared. "Whatever peace he can find." Wanted to argue, but there was something in the director's voice that stopped him, something heavy and old and sad. That night sat alone in his office. The lights were low. A screen glowed in front of him, showing files that had been locked for 30 years. His feathered hands moved slowly over the controls. Passwords that he had hoped to never use again. Security levels that most people did not know existed. The file opened. The screen showed an image, old and faded, a group of humans in black armor standing in front of a burned starship. Their faces were young, but their eyes were old. The same symbol was on their shoulders, the black sun, the 7 stars. Below the image, text appeared. Eclipse Division classified. Operation Black Dawn success. CASULTIS, 25 of 32 OPERATIVS. Survivors, 7. Current status, unknown. Stared at the image for a long time. He remembered that day. He remembered the reports coming in. A suicide mission. A group of human volunteers going into the heart of the Harrow Hive. Nobody expected them to come back. But some of them did come back. And 3 colony worlds survived because of what they did. Touched the screen. He zoomed in on one face, young, strong, eyes that had already seen too much. He compared it to the man he had seen today. Older now, gray in his hair, lines on his face. But the same eyes, the same terrible, tired eyes. "So this is where you've been hiding," whispered to the empty room. "All these years." He closed the file, he locked it again, he turned off the screen. Then he sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking about the price of survival and the weight of symbols that could never be washed away. 3 days passed. Ho went back to work. He mopped floors, he emptied trash, he fixed broken lights. He did everything the same as before. But nothing was the same. People looked at him now. Cadets who had never noticed him before watched him from the corners of their eyes. Instructors stepped aside when he walked past. Whispers followed him down every hallway. The janitor who broke a combat drone. The human who moved like a ghost. Ho ignored them all. He kept his head down, he kept his collar high, he kept working. Tried to find him. She came to the maintenance bay 3 times. The first time he left through the back door. The second time he hid in a storage room until she went away. The third time she caught him. "Please," she said, blocking his path. "I just want to say thank you." "There is nothing to thank me for," Ho said. He tried to move past her. "You saved my life." "I did what anyone would do." Shook her head. "No, no, you didn't. I saw the others. They ran. Even the instructors couldn't reach me in time. Only you." Ho said nothing. "That tattoo on your neck," continued. "What does it mean?" "It means nothing." "I don't believe you." Ho finally looked at her. His eyes were flat and cold. "Then don't believe me. It changes nothing. I am a janitor. That is all I am. That is all I want to be." He pushed past her and walked away. This time she did not follow. But someone else did. Instructor found Ho that evening in the maintenance bay. That was huge, even by the standards of his species. His gray skin looked like stone, and his eyes burned with anger. "You," growled, "I want to talk to you." Ho was organizing cleaning supplies. He did not look up. "I am busy." "I don't care," stepped closer. His massive shadow fell over Ho. "You made me look like a fool. My cadets ran while a cleaning human saved the day. Do you know how that looks?" "I do not care how it looks." His hand shot out. He grabbed Ho's collar and pulled him up. The fabric tore, exposing the tattoo again. "What is this?" demanded. "What are you hiding?" Ho hung in this grip. He did not struggle, he did not fight. His eyes were calm. "Release him," the voice came from the doorway. Commander walked into the bay. Thus 4 arms were folded across his chest. His scaled face showed no emotion, but his voice was hard as steel. "This is not your business," Commander said. "This human." "Release him now." Hesitated, then slowly he opened his hand. Ho dropped to the floor. He stood up calmly, brushing off his uniform. "Leave us," said two. "But that is an order, instructor." His face twisted with anger, but outranked him. They turned and walked out, his heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor. Waited until the sound faded. Then he looked at Ho. "I have been doing research," the commander said, "about that symbol on your neck." Ho said nothing. "It was not easy to find. The files are buried deep, classified at the highest levels, but I am head of security. I have access to things most people do not." Began to walk slowly around the bay. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. "Eclipse Division. That is what they were called. A human special forces unit during the Void War. Volunteers who went through experimental treatments, genetic modifications, neural enhancements, things that were technically illegal, but the war was desperate, and desperate times required desperate measures." Ho's hands were very still at his sides. "They operated behind enemy lines," continued, "deep in Harrow territory, places where no one else could survive. They did things that are still classified, things that will probably never be made public." The commander stopped walking. He faced Ho directly. There were 32 of them at the start. 32 volunteers who knew they would probably never come home. By the end of the war, only 7 were still alive. Paused. According to the records, only 2 of those 7 are still breathing today. Silence filled the maintenance bay. "You are one of them," said. It was not a question. Ho closed his eyes. For a long moment he did not speak. When he opened his eyes again, something had changed in them. The flat coldness was gone. In its place was something older, something heavier. "We did what needed to be done," he said quietly. "That is all." "Operation Black Dawn," spoke the words carefully. "A suicide mission into the heart of the main Harrow hive. 25 of your unit died in that operation, but you succeeded. You destroyed the hive's central intelligence. Without that, the Harrow could not coordinate. The war turned. 3 colony worlds that would have been destroyed were saved." 3 worlds. Ho's voice was barely a whisper. Billions of lives. "Yes. And it only cost us 25. Ho laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Such a good trade, wasn't it?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay." "I do not want payment." Ho's voice was hard now. "I do not want recognition. I do not want ceremonies or medals or statues." He looked at with eyes that had seen too much. "I came here to forget. Do you understand? I took this job because no one would look at me. No one would ask questions. I could disappear." "Why here? Why an academy?" Ho did not answer for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "The children," he said. "I wanted to be around young people, people who still had hope, people who had not seen what I have seen." He paused. "I thought maybe if I watched them long enough I could remember what that felt like, having hope." Nodded slowly. "I understand." "No," Ho shook his head. "You don't, you can't, but I appreciate you saying it." The commander turned to leave. At the door he stopped. "Your secret is safe with me," he said. "Director has ordered all records sealed. No one else will know unless you choose to tell them." "Thank you." But Ho looked back. "If the galaxy ever needs you again, I hope you will answer." Ho picked up his mop. He dipped it in the bucket. He began to clean the floor where his boots had left dirt. "The galaxy needed me once," he said without looking up. "It took everything I had. I have nothing left to give." Watched him for a moment longer. Then he walked away, leaving the janitor alone with his mop, his memories, and the black sun that burned forever on his neck. That night, for the first time in years, Ho dreamed of his unit. Not the screaming, not the dying, just them sitting around a fire before a mission, telling jokes and lies and stories about home. Jun was singing. One was showing pictures of his baby daughter, was cleaning her rifle and laughing at something someone said. They were all looking at him. They were all smiling. "Rest, brother," Jun said in the dream. "Rest, we will watch over you." Ho woke with tears on his face. He did not wipe them away. Outside his window, the stars were shining. Somewhere out there, 3 worlds were alive because of what his unit had done. Billions of people who would never know his name. That was enough. That had to be enough. He closed his eyes and let the darkness take him again. 1 month passed. The academy returned to normal. The whispers about the janitor faded. People forgot, as people always do. Ho was invisible again. But one thing had changed, did not stop trying. She found him during his breaks. She did not ask about the tattoo anymore. She did not ask about the combat drone. She just sat with him and talked about her classes, about her dreams, about the small cruelties she faced every day for being human. At first, Ho said nothing. He just listened. But slowly over the weeks he began to respond. A word here, a sentence there. Sometimes if she said something funny, the corner of his mouth would move, almost a smile. "You know," said one evening, "you're actually pretty nice when you're not trying to be invisible." Ho looked at her. "I am not nice." "Yes, you are. You just hide it," she grinned. like everything else about you." He did not answer, but that night he brought 2 cups of tea instead of one. The change in commander came first. Ho noticed it immediately. The walked faster. He spoke shorter. He kept checking his communicator with 4 worried hands. Then the announcement came. All cadets and staff were called to the great hall. Director stood at the front, his old feathers bristling. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. "We have received reports from our long-range sensors," said. "A Harrow signature has been detected in nearby space." The hall went silent. Ho felt his blood turn to ice. "This is not a mistake," continued. "The signature has been confirmed by 3 separate stations. A remnant hive cluster survived the war. It has been dormant for 30 years. Now it is waking up." Voices erupted across the hall: shock, fear, panic. Quiet shouted, and the hall fell silent again. Raised a hand. "Military reinforcements are being sent. They will arrive in 2 days. Until then, we are beginning evacuation protocols. Non-combat personnel will be moved to secure shelters in the lower levels. Cadets will assist." Ho stood at the back of the hall. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against his sides to make them stop. The Harrow, after 30 years, they were still alive. All those deaths, all that sacrifice, and the Harrow were still alive. The evacuation began within the hour. Ho worked with the other maintenance staff, guiding groups to the underground shelters. The passages were old, built when the academy was first constructed. Few people knew them well. But Ho knew them. He had cleaned every corner. He knew every tunnel, every door, every hidden path. The attack came on the 2nd day, too fast, too soon. Ho was in the lower maintenance tunnels when the lights went red. Alarms screamed. The walls shook with distant explosions. "Breach in sectors 4 and 7, the computer announced. "All personnel proceed to secure locations." Then multiple hostile contacts detected. Harrow infiltration units have entered the lower levels. Ho's heart stopped. The lower levels, where the evacuation shelters were, where the children were. He ran. The tunnels were chaos. People ran in all directions, not knowing where to go. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed off the metal walls. Ho found at the junction of Tunnel 9. She was leading a group of cadets, maybe 20 of them, through the darkness. Her face was pale but determined. "Ho," she grabbed his arm. "We can't reach the main shelter. There are Harrow between us and the door." He looked at the group. Young faces, terrified eyes. Some of them were the same ones who had mocked humans. Was there, his gray face tight with fear. "Follow me," Ho said. "I know another way." They moved through the tunnels. Ho led them through passages that were not on any map, maintenance routes, emergency paths, places only a janitor would know. Behind them they could hear the sounds of fighting, weapons firing, people screaming, and beneath it all a sound that Ho remembered from his nightmares, a wet clicking noise, the sound of the Harrow. They reached a sealed door. Ho entered the code. It did not work. "The system is damaged," he said. "We need to go around." But when they turned, they were not alone anymore. 3 shapes stood in the tunnel behind them. Harrow. They looked like nightmares made flesh. Bodies that were wrong, twisted, built for killing. Too many limbs, too many teeth. Eyes that glowed with cold hunger. The cadets screamed. Some fell back. Others raised weapons they did not know how to use. Instructor stepped forward. The massive put himself between the cadets and the Harrow. "Get back," he growled, "all of you." The first Harrow attacked, met it with a crushing blow that would have killed any normal creature. But the Harrow were not normal. It absorbed the hit and kept coming. Its blade arm sliced across chest. The fell. "No," screamed. He tried to run to his instructor but held him back. The 3 Harrow moved forward, slow, patient. They knew their prey had nowhere to go. Ho looked at the children behind him, terrified, helpless, like the colonists on those 3 worlds 30 years ago, like all the innocent people the hero had killed. Something stirred inside him, something he had buried for 3 decades, something he had prayed he would never need again. He reached up and tore off his collar, then he unbuttoned his sleeves. Slowly he rolled them up. Gasped. His arms were covered in tattoos, not just the black sun on his neck. Both arms from wrist to shoulder were marked with ink, names, numbers, symbols, kill counts and mission markers and unit badges. 30 years of history written on his skin. Ho stepped forward, his posture changed, his eyes changed. The tired janitor was gone, something else had taken his place. "Stay behind me," he said. His voice was different now. Harder, colder, "don't look back." The hero stopped. Their heads tilted. They sensed something, something dangerous. Ho smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I remember you," he said to the creatures. "I remember what you did to my friends. I remember hunting you through the dark, listening to you scream as we burned your hives." He cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed in the silent tunnel. "You forgot about us, didn't you? You thought we were all dead. You thought you were safe." He took a step forward. The hero took a step back. They had never done that before. They had never retreated from prey. "Let me remind you," Ho said softly, "what Eclipse Division does to your kind." Then he moved, and the tunnel filled with death. The cadets would talk about what they saw that night for the rest of their lives. They would tell their children and they would tell anyone who would listen. They would say a janitor killed 3 hero with his bare hands. Ho moved like nothing they had ever seen. He was not fast like a machine. He was not strong he was something else. Something that had been built for one purpose and had forgotten how to do anything else. The first hero died before it could attack. Ho was under its guard in half a heartbeat, his hand finding the soft spot where its neck met its body. He twisted. The creature collapsed. The second hero came at him with blade arms spinning. Ho did not dodge. He stepped into the attack, caught one blade with his forearm and drove his other hand through the creature's eye socket. It screamed, a sound like metal scraping glass. Then it fell. The third hero tried to run. It did not get far. Ho stood over the bodies, breathing hard. His uniform was torn. His arms were bleeding where the blades had cut him, but his eyes were clear and cold. "Move," he said to the cadets, "now." They moved. Ho led them through the tunnels. More hero came. He killed them all. He used maintenance tools. He used pieces of broken machinery. When he had nothing else, he used his hands. The cadets watched and tried not to be sick. Stayed close to him. She helped carry the wounded. She kept the others moving when they wanted to freeze. She did not look away when Ho did what needed to be done. "How much farther?" she asked. "Close." Ho's voice was strained. He was hurt worse than he was showing. "The emergency bunker is at the end of this tunnel. It has its own power, its own air. It can hold until reinforcements arrive." They reached the bunker door. Ho entered the code. The lock beeped. Red light, access. "The mechanism is damaged," said. His gray face was pale. "I can see it. The panel is burned." Ho looked at the door. Then he looked back down the tunnel. Sounds were coming from the darkness. Click, 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 more hero, many more. "Can you fix it?" he asked. "Maybe. I need time." "How much time?" "Swallowed 10 minutes, maybe 15. Ho nodded. "Then you have 15 minutes. He turned and walked toward the sound of the approaching hero. "Wait," grabbed his arm. "You can't fight them all. There are too many." Ho looked at her. For a moment, the coldness in his eyes softened. He reached up and touched her face just briefly, like a father might touch his child. "I have done this before," he said quietly. "I held a line so others could live. That time I was surrounded by friends. This time I am alone, but it is the same fight. It has always been the same fight." "Ho! Fix the door, get inside, and remember something for me." Tears were running down her face. What? We were never weak. He smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. We humans, we were never what they said we were. Remember that. Then he turned and walked into the darkness. The harrow came in waves, 5, then 10, then more. They filled the tunnel like a flood of nightmares. Ho stood in their path. He fought like he had fought 30 years ago, like he had fought in the heart of the enemy hive, surrounded by the bodies of his friends. Every movement was perfect. Every strike was lethal. He was not one man. He was 32. He carried his unit with him, fighting with all their strength, all their rage, all their love. Jun, he whispered as he killed another harrow. 1. Names. He said their names as he fought. 25 names. 25 brothers and sisters who had given everything so others could live. I am coming, he said. Wait for me. Behind him, he heard the bunker door open. He heard screaming for him to run. He heard the door begin to close. 1 more harrow, 2 more, 3. Ho fell back step by step. His arms were on fire, his legs were failing, but he kept fighting. The bunker door was almost closed. There was just enough room. The last harrow died at his feet. Ho turned and ran. He threw himself through the gap just as the door sealed shut. The bunker fell silent, except for the sound of breathing. Ho lay on the floor. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His uniform was destroyed, but his eyes were open and he was alive. Knelt beside him. You idiot, she said through her tears. You absolute idiot. Ho laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. I have been called worse. The reinforcements arrived 8 hours later. They found the bunker sealed tight, with 22 cadets and 1 maintenance worker inside, all alive. Outside the bunker, they found the bodies of 47 harrow. Most had been killed by a single individual. The reports would later call it unprecedented. They would call it impossible. They would study it for years, trying to understand how one human had done what entire squads could not. But Ho did not care about reports. He spent 2 weeks in the medical bay, visited him every day, came 3 times, each time bringing tea from Earth. Came every hour she could spare. When he was healed, there was a ceremony. Director stood in front of the entire academy and told them the truth about Ho, about Eclipse Division, about Operation Black Dawn, about the 32 humans who had saved the galaxy when no one else could. Ho stood in front of them all, uncomfortable and unhappy. He did not like being seen. But then spoke. He was never invisible, she said. We just weren't looking. The hall was silent for a long moment, then stood up. The young walked forward, stopped in front of Ho, and bowed low in the traditional way. I was wrong about humans, said. I was wrong about everything. One by one, others stood. All of them bowing to the human janitor who had saved their lives. Ho did not know what to say. He had never known what to say in moments like this. So he just bowed back. 3 months later, things were almost normal again. The harrow remnant had been destroyed. The academy was repaired. Life went on. Ho was mopping the training hall when found him. She was graduating soon, top of her class. You know, she said, they offered you a position, teaching, told me. Ho shrugged. I like mopping. That's the worst lie you've ever told me. He smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. Maybe I will think about it, he said. Someday. For now, I like being here. I like watching you young ones grow. It reminds me why we fought, why they died. He touched the tattoo on his neck. He did not hide it anymore. His collar was open. The black sun was visible for all to see. Some suns burn quiet, he said softly. That is what Jun used to say. Some suns burn quiet, but they still burn. Hugged him. He was stiff at first, unused to touch. Then slowly he hugged her back. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Ho said nothing. He just held her for a moment longer. Then he picked up his mop and went back to work. But now when cadets passed him in the hall, they nodded. They smiled. Some even stopped to talk. And Ho, the janitor with the sun on his neck, nodded back. He was still cleaning floors. He was still quiet. He was still carrying ghosts that would never let him go. But he was not invisible anymore, and somehow that was okay. The black sun burned on his neck. The 7 stars watched over him. And somewhere, he liked to think, 25 voices were singing, telling him he had done well.